What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to bring you guys my own free draft for the upcoming Game Week 22. So don't worry, I've not activated the chip. I'm just saying my own free draft because this is going to be my own take on the chip. And whether you guys should use it or not is a completely different story. We'll be giving you guys some advice on those single Game Week fixtures for those teams that only have one game and whether you should focus on them or not. But let's just assume in the grand scheme of things that you guys want to use the free hit, or at least want to maybe see what team you can get with the free hit chip. That's exactly what this video is going to be about. I'm going to give you guys my double game week selections of what teams to maybe focus on, which players to focus on, and hopefully by the end of the video you guys are sitting with a really nice free hit draft. So that's something you guys are interested in? Sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So before we get into the video, I want to give you guys a little bit of an announcement about the uncertainty. Yes, we unfortunately still do have a massive amount of postponements that could potentially happen. I'm recording this video on Sunday evening after those FA Cup games, just because I wanted to see if certain players got injured, whether those teams might have got knocked out, and so on and so forth. But as of right now, Sunday evening, there have actually been some potential postponement rumors, even leading up to those double Game Week 21 fixtures, as the game week is still happening as we speak. So whether every kind of double Game Week 22 fixture goes ahead is yet to be seen, and unfortunately using a free hit chip might add to that uncertainty, as you guys are not getting nailed on double Game Week players. But as of recording this video, I'm going to take every double Game Week as if it's happening, and then you guys can just adjust the draft or the team as we get more news about the postponements. I just wanted to get this out there because I know there'll be those of you in the comments down below saying, why didn't you talk about this postponement if you're watching this a little bit later on in the week? There might even be a postponement on Monday morning, but as I said, recording this on Sunday, so please just bear with me on that front. But now going over the Game Week 22 fixtures, and don't worry, the double Game Weeks will be coming up in the next talking point. These are basically the original Game Week 22 fixtures before the doubles were announced, as I wanted to go over some single Game Week fixtures. Now, unfortunately, if you guys want to use the free hit, you probably want to maximize those double game week players, and this is where you might be a little bit vulnerable to those non-chip users, because the single game week players and the popular options such as the Liverpool and also some assets such as the West Ham options have great fixtures coming up. Liverpool hosts Brentford, which is a great fixture at home at Anfield. Is always a tough place to go to, and Brentford have been struggling as of yet. Liverpool's attack is going to be a little bit hit or miss depending on how they can kind of adjust to no Salah and no Mane, but I mean Jota is still in great form, so I mean he could potentially get some returns. Then you see West Ham travel to Leeds, a team that they hosted in the FA Cup. So kind of a rehearsal for that game, went 2-0 to West Ham's way, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a replication of that result, with Bowen and Antonio both getting returns. Everton also traveled to Norwich. If you guys brought them in for double Game Week 21, might not even be a double game week, who kind of knows with that Everton side, but they traveled to a Norwich side that have been poor this entire season, and they have been known to be the side that kind of changes the form of some teams. Now, I guess the big single game week is going to be Man City versus Chelsea. A lot of us do own those Chelsea and Man City options, and that's not a great fixture to kind of go by, especially for the Man City point of view, because they only have a single game week. But I mean, that is a top 6 clash, can kind of go either way. Can go 0-0, maybe Cancelo gets a clean sheet, some attacking returns. You can kind of tell in that fixture. But the 3 fixtures that probably are going to lead to some points are going to be Everton, Liverpool, and then also West Ham. Now, all 3 of those teams are quite highly owned coming into double game week 21. So that's what you guys have to kind of think about if you want to bring these assets in on a free hit, or if you actually want to free hit at all. But now going to the double Game Week 22 fixtures, which is probably what you guys are going to be focusing on with that free hit, trying to maximize as many double Game Week players as possible. And if you guys didn't watch my initial reaction, I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown on which teams I think you guys should focus on. And I have given my own ratings here from red, white, and green. Green obviously meaning a great fixture, white means a little bit of a meh fixture, average fixture, and then red is an avoidable fixture if possible. So we're going to start off with the team then alphabetical order. Brentford, that have 2 red fixtures in my opinion, Liverpool, and then Manchester United at home. Now the United game is a little bit of a tough one to call because United overall have not been playing that well, so maybe Brentford could get something out of that game, but the Liverpool away game is definitely one that I wouldn't be targeting. So that's why with these Brentford assets, I've not included them on my free draft. A little bit of a spoiler alert there, but I think you guys can understand there. Brentford's form isn't great as well, so added to that some tough fixtures, I think they are an avoid. Now the next team, Brighton, have a good fixture in the first double game week 22 fixture against Crystal Palace at home, but then they host Chelsea. Now this game could also go either way. Brentford's defense has actually been pretty strong this season, and Chelsea on a little bit of a dip or form at the current moment, so maybe Brighton could get some defensive returns here, but from an attacking point of view, Brighton just simply can't score at the current moment, and that's why I won't really be favouring these Brighton assets, even though they have a great fixture in that first game. Now we go on to a side that's in even worse form. Burnley are losing their FA Cup game to relatively lower opposition, even though they played a full strength side. So Burnley assets, in my opinion, are in a void unless you guys want to get some cheap options in for the bench. Then I think they are fine, simply because that Leicester game could go either way, but I think you got to be favouring Leicester in that fixture. But then they host Watford, a side that have not been great defensively and almost from an attacking point of view, I guess you could say. But against Burnley, you're probably favouring Watford to score, but maybe a Chris Wood, that Burnley attack could get some returns, because that Watford defense is not too great. And then finally, Chelsea in that last list on the left. Man City away, terrible fixture there. I think it's the worst fixture to have at the current moment in the Prem. But then they do travel to Brighton. In this game, it's kind of hard to call, but I do think it's going to be quite a tight game. And therefore, those Chelsea defenders could come out trumps. But the Chelsea options are really hard to include on a free simply because they faced Man City in the first game. And I don't really think they're going to get too many points in that game. And therefore, it's hard to kind of include too many of their options. But now going on to the right-hand side, and definitely the more favourable fixtures on the right-hand side of this kind of graphic. We're going to start off with Leicester, Burnley away, and then Spurs at home. Now, both of these two games, I think, especially the Burnley one, is one to favour. And that Spurs game, defensively, they've been quite strong in some games, but then they really have missed the mark in others. And therefore, I think these Leicester assets, with all the injuries, have to kind of play on the attack because the Leicester defence is really bad. So Burnley away, very good game to kind of target, but in that Spurs game could be a little bit harder, but I do think because the Leicester midfielders are quite cheap and they will play, I do think they're worth the investment. And now leading on to Manchester United, arguably the best double game week at 22 fixtures, Aston Villa away and then Brentford away. Unfortunately, it's not a home game at Old Trafford, but I don't really know how United's away form has compared to their home form, but definitely one of the best fixtures to have in game week at 22 are these two fixtures. Villa, a little bit unpredictable there under Stevie G. Brentford have been struggling at the current moment. The last couple game weeks have not really led up to the hype that they had in the prior game weeks, and therefore I think United, even though their form is not too strong, I do think they're probably the easiest triple up to go for. Now on a free hit, we always talk about punts, and I think tripling up on United is going to be a punt because of their current form, but I think you have to go for it simply because the fixtures look quite strong. We then go on to Spurs. We have the news of Heung-min Son being out injured. Massive kind of news there for my own personal team, and I'm pretty sure your guys' teams was almost going to be my secure captain for double game week 22. But with him out, how are Spurs going to kind of react? I personally am a little bit put off those Spurs assets just because without Son, I think they'll be performing a little bit to a lower caliber than with the South Korean. But I still think these assets could be quite valuable with fixtures against Arsenal at home, then Leicester away. So Arsenal just losing to Nottingham Forest 1-0 in the FA Cup. So I think that kind of form, they're going to look to rebound against Spurs in the North London derby, but if they're conceding against Nottingham Forest, I'm pretty sure they can concede against Spurs. They then travel to Leicester away, which I think defensively is going to be an average fixture, but from an attacking point of view, Leicester's defense is really bad and quite injury prone. So I think they're missing out on a couple of their first choice defenders, and that's why I think when comparing these fixtures singularly, I think both of them are quite average, but put together, I guess we can consider it to be one good game. But then finally, I think my favorite team to target, but unfortunately their options are simply terrible. It's going to be Watford with fixtures against Newcastle away and then Burnley away. So definitely, in my opinion, the best double game week to go by. But as I've mentioned, a promoted side, not in the best of form here. And with their attacking options being a little bit lackluster apart from their strikers, I don't think there's too many options we can go for from this Watford team. So the fixtures are still good, so I think we should go for at least one or two options. But I just think, as I said, not great team, but great fixtures. So now we've kind of talked about all the different fixtures. I'm going to take you guys through my favorite game week 22 free hit. This could always change. You guys will probably have a different decisions. Drop it down in the comments below what your current free hit draft is and where you would change my own team. Now I just want to bring your guys' attention to the bottom there. I have 0.0 in the bank, so if you guys have a similar team value or selling value to me, you'll only be able to afford this draft, and if there are any upgrades or price changes, you won't be able to. But that's not a problem, because as you can see on my bench there, I've got a massive first bench option of Azpilicueta at 5.7 million. So 5.7 million, not the best option because of some rotation, but I do think with the injuries in that Chelsea defense, Azpi could get a number of minutes, and that's why I do like him as a Chelsea option at that price point. Bachmann comes in as our second goalkeeper at 4.3. I don't think Ben Foster will recover from this injury that he's had, and Bachmann did have a relatively good game week at 21, so I think he's fine at 4.3 million, as he probably won't come on unless David De Gea does get injured. We then have Taylor and Brownie on my cheap Burnley options. I would only be going for Burnley bench options. Please don't include them on your starting 11. Now watch me kind of jinx them, and Chris Wood goes on and scores 2 double hat-tricks in double game week 22, but I think they're fine at these price points if they're going to be on your bench. But to be honest, it's a little bit of a weird free hit because usually you want to get as much value in your starting 11 as possible. But because you have so much value and these options like a Mo Salah and a Trent are out injured or at AFCON, we have so much value in the bank, and that's why you can go for more expensive and playing bench, which I would actually advise because of the whole scenario that we currently are in. We might have some postponements coming up and you at least want some bench options that have good fixtures that could come on and get you a minimum points. But going on to that starting 11, and we're going to start off with the defense, a lovely 3-4-3 formation, a kind of the generic FPL and a normal footballing formation. We got David De Gea in goal just because I think from a defensive point of view, you have to include a Man United defender. And for me, David De Gea is nailed, and I was worried about some potential rotation in those other United defensive positions. So overall, I'm just hoping that United can improve their defensive form. David De Gea is doing everything he can, getting the saves, but they're not getting the clean sheets. But hopefully in double game week 22, we can see the reverse of that. But then going to the rest of the defense, I'm not too confident about the defense, to be honest. I've simply tried to pick double game week options that have fine fixtures and average defenses. So I've gone for Marcos Alonso from Chelsea, kind of being the only fit fullback that they currently do have. And at 5.6 million, relatively good price point in my opinion. So in the first fixture against Man City, I'm definitely not hoping for too many points, but I think against Brighton, there definitely could be a clean sheet in there for Chelsea. Marcos Alonso always does have that attacking threat, and I've kind of included all fullbacks in my defense just because their fixtures might not be that great, but at least they could maybe get some attacking returns. Castagne is included in that argument. I don't really know the current form of that Leicester team, or at least the secure formation of them, but I do think Castagne is a relatively nailed defender to go for. Even though they haven't been getting too many clean sheets, I mean, in a double game week, you got to take some punts. And then finally, they've got the Brighton defender, Cucurella. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Apologies if I'm not. But I really do like him. Every time I've watched him, seems to be quite secure defensively and occasionally does get forward and therefore does offer that attacking threat as well. Brighton's fixture are definitely not the best, but they have seen some defensive form recently. And that's why even against Chelsea, there could potentially be a clean sheet in that one. But now moving on to our midfield department, and definitely we've got some differentials here. I'm going to be going for the only single game week player in our starting 11, and that's going to be Jared Bowen. Against Leeds, I think this is a fixture to target from a West Ham point of view, and therefore you guys need some coverage in that fixture, and that's why I think Jared Bowen's the man to go for. I favour Bowen over on Antonio just because I think his form is better, and I think in the starting 11, I wanted those three strikers, and Jared Bowen provides perfectly in that midfield department. I'm then going to go into our double up in midfield of Maddison and Tielemans from Leicester. Now I wanted to include Lookman here, but I just think I favour Maddison and Tielemans as more secured starters, and I definitely think they're in better form than Lookman is currently. So I think you guys have to go for at least one Leicester midfielder just because they do come in quite cheap and they are nailed with all these kind of injuries that Leicester do have. The only thing I do worry about is the potential postponements because of all these injuries that Leicester actually do have in their starting 11. A nice addition to Tielemans is that he will be on penalties if Jamie Vardy's out. Jamie Vardy announced that he'll be out for about 8 weeks now, so really going to be nailed for Tielemans on those penalties, and Maddison is in good form as well. But then the final position in our midfield, you're probably screaming at the monitor right now, or your screen, or whatever you're watching the video on. I have included Bruno Fernandes in my starting 11, and the reason for that is that I had so much money in the bank that I could actually afford Bruno Fernandes in that midfield department, and as I've mentioned throughout the video, on a free hit, I think you guys have to take a few punts. Now, even though Bruno has been out of the starting 11 for 1 or 2 games since the new manager has come in, I do think he's nailed to start the double game week just because United look so poor without him, and when he does come off the bench, he looks quite strong. So by no means am I guaranteeing points from Bruno Fernandes, but I just think if you're going to be on a free hit, take a punt on him with those lovely Man United fixtures. And then finally go on to our forward department where I think most points will come from. We've got for quite strong forwards here with Kane and Ronaldo both at that plus 12 million point. But I just think with Heung-min Son out injured, Harry Kane is going to have to step up. And their fixtures are quite average. And therefore I think Harry Kane has a good scoring record against them. So that could potentially be one good fixture. So even though Harry Kane has only 3 odd goals this season, I do think he'll rebound from that hopefully in the second half of the season. And in the double game week 22, I'm hoping for points if you guys do have Harry Kane. But I am predicting that Ronaldo will outscore Harry Kane, and therefore he will be my captain if I was to free it, and I think he's the best option for captaincy going into double game week 22. Yes, there has been some news about potential background stuff with Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes, but I think they will put that behind them as they are professionals, and on the pitch, I do think the Portuguese internationals will do quite well. I do think United have the best double game week 22. I think Watford have the best fixtures, but from a kind of form point of view, they're not that great. And even though United's form hasn't been that so strong, I do think in these 2 games, I do favour them to win. And talking about Watford, our final striker is going to be Josh King. I wanted to include Dennis here, but I just thought with the current scenario about his injury, picking up a knock in game week 21, I do think Josh King's the more secured option. And there has been some rumors of some background stuff as well with the Dennis after not being allowed to go to AFCON. So therefore, I think Josh King is the safer option to go for, as there might be a training bust up in the making. So this is my Game Week 22, double Game Week 22 free draft. I know you guys probably don't agree with every position. Drop it in the comments down below what your current draft is and which positions you think I've gone absolutely mental on. Spoiler alert, probably Bruno Fernandes. I'm going to see a lot of debate about him in the comments probably. But this is basically wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for the normal ultimate guide. Comment down below any talking points you want me to cover. Otherwise, there's going to be a load of football still coming with those League Cup semi-finals wrapping up, except for Liverpool, who only have played 0 legs, and their first leg will come up on a Tuesday or Wednesday, I do believe. The team selection will be coming later on in the week as I'm waiting for some uncertainty to kind of be simmered down with all these postponements and future postponements that could happen. So make sure that you do check that video out, probably coming about Thursday. Otherwise, I hope to see you guys in the deadline stream coming up on Friday. Please remember that it is a Friday deadline. I don't want you guys missing it as there's enough kind of luck in FPL. Just stick with the players that you think will score the most points. But I'm signing off. It's me, Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.